Well, welcome to Inside Pride, where we take a peek into the San Francisco LGBTQ Pride Celebration Committee's mission to educate the world, commemorate our heritage, celebrate our culture, and liberate our people. My name is Shannon. I'm a staff member here at San Francisco Pride, and today we are chatting with an educator, author, former San Francisco Supervisor, and California State Assembly member, Tom Ammiano. It is such an honor to have you with us today.
Oh, well, thank you. It's an honor to be interviewed and be appreciated and contacted. So I thank you for that.
This is it's a big honor for me as a younger queer person moving a little bit in politics and in City Hall, and growing up and getting to see you in the press, it meant a lot to me. So it is truly an honor to be here with you today. So let's get to it. First of all, let's start off with a fun, easy question. What are your favorite and least favorite memories of San Francisco Pride?
Well, I think the time that the police presence was very heavy, and there was some harassment of particularly drag queens. Now, my favorite moment was after this cop had harassed some drag queens. One of them approached the motorcycle. It was a motorcycle cop, and it was very cliche almost. The cop was portly and red-faced with a big motorcycle. And so the drag queen herself, she was very thin, kind of bony, little skimpy outfit. And she went up to the cop, and then she bent over and looked into his side mirror and whipped out her lipstick and gave herself some big lips on that, but then walked away. So I guess you could say that was the most uncomfortable. And then there was relief as well. So
humor is such an effective tool sometimes. Yeah. So young trans athletes are the latest cultural flashpoint in the fight for LGBTQ rights. As an educator, can you give us your perspective on why schools are always so far over?
Well, there's always a big attack on public education. I mean, that's the bigger narrative. And then how what we have is delivered can be very problematic. You can see the problems here in San Francisco right now. There's a lot of class issues. And then there's a lot of, there's an imbalance. So a school will look good if it has a good athletic team. And there are some schools that pride themselves on academics. But, they're not that democratic. The model we have is, but then the execution isn't so much. So when you bump up to any difference, the bigger picture, of course, is institutionalized homophobia and sexism and transphobia and misogyny. All the isms are there. And then when, we buck them and fight them, it's not always linear. It's not always A, B, C, D, E. So sometimes we go backwards. I think with trans students and education, there are inroads, but they're hard fought for. The price is high, and it's not enough. So, and then it's a crazy world. You'll see, of all people, the governor of Arkansas vetoing an anti-trans bill. Now, the veto is going to be overturned. However, on the other hand, you see the president of the United States not only, positioning a transgender woman as a high official in his administration, but then he also declares trans visibility. So it's a pot boiler. So the good things are important, but they're still not enough. And the bad things we need to push back on. And a lot of that comes out of visibility and having allies. And the state of California, on paper isn't bad about transgender kids. I did a bill and other people have, but the actual implementation, I think, is still lagging. So it's a fight, is what I'm saying, and it's a good fight, and it's worth it, and we should all keep it up. It's also a team effort.
It is. It takes a village for sure.
Or the village people.
Yeah.
In San Francisco.
Well, as a trans individual, I have always appreciated your allyship for the trans community, and writing those bills, that was ahead of its time. So
we did it. Well, we did it together, and here's some dirt. I don't know what else to say because we've been around such a long time. There were established LGBTQ organizations that didn't want me to do the bill. Now, they had their own reasons, I'm sure, but they weren't my reasons because I could read what was happening in Sacramento. And so, one always has to be aware that even one's community is going to be fractured, and sometimes it's going to take some leadership to lead us. And, a good leader like Harvey Milk was led by the people, by the gay community, and he actualized the things that we needed. And so I felt that that the bill did come from that. We had families from Grass Valley, rural areas, with a transgender kid, so articulate and so supportive. And I knew it was the right thing to do. We all knew it was the right thing to do. And we did it. And the biggest shock was Jerry Brown signed it because he could be left, he could be right. And that was only one bill, and that built on other things that were happening. So, as long as you have I always felt as an elected that we should all be a conduit. And, and then activism did inform me as an elected. And that was very helpful about issues like this, of course, and others like it.
I love those stories. That you mentioned Willie Brown, so that gets into our next question. San Francisco often elects strongly progressive boards, but often moderate mayors, and never before an LGBTQ mayor. So as the candidate who held Willie Brown to a runoff in 1999 that somehow saw increased turnout over the general election, why is that?
Well, I think it's complicated. Part of it is that sometimes there's just no unison. So like even the left will split. So that's something that's organic and has to be addressed. Money in politics, I probably will be dead before that's gone, but you'd be surprised how that would clean up a lot of the messes we're in, including who gets elected and when. England, Canada, they have like a 1 week campaign period and everybody, so though all those things contribute. Then there's something called political will. The political will really has to be there. I like to joke, I was actually the first openly gay mayor in San Francisco because Willie Brown, of all people, back in the day, as a supervisor, appointed me to be mayor for the day, which was a non-political rotating thing. So I'm going to say I was the first gay mayor for 24 hours anyway. And then we have an office of the mayor, separate from who the person is, that's too strong. It's a strong mayor. And there's a lot of powers there that need to be shared, that need transparency, and that need accountability. So this goes back to charter reform. And I'm hoping there's a number of supervisors who are interested in instituting charter reform. A part of it is wonky. You have to establish it, maybe a commission vote who's on it. Maybe it takes a year or two, but that could be very, very important. And looking at the way the mayor's office is set up now under the present charter, we would have an opportunity to change that. And in my mind, that would level the playing field. So I think those are, and then there's homophobia. We don't always see it on the surface in San Francisco, but when you leave the room, kind of thing. And then there's levels of homophobia. There's the kind, I have friends who are gay, whatever. Do you remember in the Harvey Milk movie, the documentary, about the Prop 6, the anti-gay teacher thing, they interview a nice older woman, and they said, would you, vote against this? Opposition to gay teachers. And she goes, I love my hairdresser. I would do anything for him, but I'm kind of worried about teachers. That kind of speaks to that. There's different levels of homophobia, and I say homophobia, queer, and we have to recognize what they are. We're a harder community because we are so diverse in a way that works against us because we don't always recognize that. But, we're different languages, different ethnicities, lots of class problem, different genders. So it's going to take a special person and a special set of circumstances to have an openly queer mayor. I'd like to see an openly transgender mayor. I think that's totally possible. For me, there's a little more of a step back. I think the identity part is great, but I want somebody progressive, obviously, as opposed to, someone who's moderate. And the fact that they're queer might be an overall good thing, but if they're not for single payer, or if they're not good on homeless and all that, then to me, what's the difference? It's a different dress on a different body.
Yes.
Same dress, same body. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. And I too look forward to someday seeing, even a trans board of, supervisor.
Oh, yeah, no,
that would be lovely. And I think hopefully
I know
Honey
it's going to
Mahogany.
happen. Yeah, I know it's going to happen. It's tough, but it'll happen. There's a couple in the bullpen already.
Yes.
Yeah. So my lips are sealed, but
Ooh.
we'll see.
All right. We'll have to come back for the next Inside Pride.
Yeah. Now remember, too, it's up to them. They need to start doing research, outreach, because if I know that there's some possibilities, they got to go to you and everybody else to make sure that. Anyway.
Yes.
The old guy gives advice,
and we are here for it. That's what we need.
I know. That's the beauty of SF. I always make a joke about I'm a real flamer, so it's time to pass the torch. And I'm so relieved and gratified that there are so many worthwhile and valuable people like yourself, who are ready for the torch, who are taking it around. That means a lot. Be terrible not to have, a community behind you like that.
Well, thank you. That's wonderful advice. Our theme this year is all in this together. And I think that good. I hope that, one of the best things to come out of the pandemic is this reconnection with each other and a reminder that we are fighting for, the same thing.
That what we used to say, when Milk was around is, and this is what Milk did very adroitly, is connect the fucking dots. So now we say intersectionality, but you understand totally. I know.
I like connect the fucking dots.
Yeah, I've always loved it. He also used to say, take the ass out of assimilation. So
these tidbits.
Yeah. So yes, learn from COVID. Obviously it's affected our community a little worse than most for a lot of other reasons, but let's learn from it.
Absolutely. Well, I have a question that I've wanted to ask you for a long time. As somebody who's been involved with the Castro LGBTQ cultural district and the merchants, I've loved hearing stories about venues that have come and gone. And one of them is Josie's Cabaret, and Juice joined.
Yeah.
You ran your campaign out of that location on 16th, where Starbelly is. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the backstory is there was another place called the Valencia Rose, and it was the same folks. My friend Ron Lanza, Don Montwill, Hank Wilson, all gone now. Just had a perfect storm of we need something queer, a queer space where there's entertainment and a restaurant. And for those of you, who are younger, back a long time ago, there were these, and you may know, 1940s, 1950s movie, and it would be Judy Garland and a guy named Mickey Rooney, and they would go, let's put on a show. And then they would build a barn, and of course the show would have like Hollywood production values, but it was just supposed to be in the backyard. And it was that kind of spirit. And Lanza was very good about that. And they found an old mortuary, and everything was nickel dimed. And so we made a queer space, and we even started a gay comedy scene there that, some people went on, like Marga and Leah. And that was we all got bit by the bug, and it was very successful, but we did nickel dime it, and our hearts were good, but finances were what they were. So it folded. And so then there was this, coitus interruption. Where do we go from here? Where's, how do we keep this going? And Ron again found the Able Pen Company, which is now Starbelly. And, he approached all of us, said, all right, here we go. And through the goodwill of a lot of people and skill, we opened Josie's Juke Joint. And it became very successful and very dear to the queer community. And we managed to be entertaining and deep and politically correct, and again, a perfect storm. And I had no idea I was going to run, for mayor at that time. And then when I did, it touched a little, it ignited something that was sleeping, especially in the progressive community. And Ron immediately, intuitively knew that that's something that could grow, and he wanted to do something. And so it turned out that it was a perfect location, and was very high spirited and stressful, and a real coming together, I think something that was transformative. And it wasn't all me, it was a movement. A lot of times legislators and politicos become a little disconnected, and they forget about movements, and they can't be dismissed, no matter how times a bill is vetoed or whatever. That doesn't resonate. So it was a very beautiful experience. I hope people keep writing about it, and I'd like to see a place, that replaces that sometime. That would be good. That'd be great. Somebody has a few extra years of their life to dedicate.
Well, having physical space is so important. And we've certainly lost a lot in the last 10 years or so. So I'm excited for what I hope will be a renaissance of young queer entrepreneurs getting to open up spaces.
Yeah, we have a culture.
Yeah.
And we contribute. And some people are threatened by that, or some people are reductionist, and we're only about sex or whatever their trip is when they're alone. But our culture is very substantive, and just like other communities, the Latinx and the Black community, their take is a little different. Just like, and that's what makes it rich, not to be run away from. And you can maintain the difference without denigrating each other. What a concept. Write that down.
I love it. Well, speaking of juicy, your 2020 memoir, Kiss My Gay Ass,
Oh
really
yeah,
tells
yeah.
it like it is.
Oh,
So did you hold
look,
anything
oh my
back in
God,
that?
I just happened to, where did this come from? Oh,
What? Love the cover.
yeah. Um, I was witnessing a lot of what we call revisionism, and wasn't really happy. I said, I was there when that happened. It didn't quite happen this way. So, friends and, shut up, put your version down. Um, and I did avoid that. So Tim Wolford and John Gollinger said, we'll come over, we'll start off, and you can, wax poetic about anything you want, and then we'll transcribe it. And so that's how the book happened, thanks to those two guys. And I think it's been almost right around COVID. How's that for timing? Nobody knew, you know.
Yeah.
And we didn't get a big publisher. The Bay Guardian is publishing it, and so a lot of the grunt work that established publisher would do, we did. The distribution, no more bookstores because of COVID, in terms of doing the readings. So everything was online. And it's done very well. We may do a second printing, and all depends. But I'm very happy that it's done. And the feedback we've gotten is that, most people have enjoyed it. So that means a lot, especially young people.
Yes. There are some, I had some proper LOL moments reading the book.
Yeah, it was organic, it happened that way. So,
yeah. Well, so speaking of young folks, who are some young activists working in San Francisco right now that you are excited for?
Well, my version of young could be have more latitude. 40 could be young for me, but I know Jackie Spear. Did I say Spear? No, not Jackie Spear. What do I mean? Fielder. Senior moment, folks. That's why we need you. Jackie Fielder, Honey Mahogany. I don't know if she's still around. Jordan. Sometimes the names, I block on the names. And then there's also a number of color, especially within the immigrant rights community. I keep my eye on them and what they're saying. One group we leave out a lot, all of us, is the disabled. The disabled, if you've seen Crip Camp, I would really recommend that you see that, because that's true civil disobedience, at least affecting some change. And disabled community tends left, although, of course, they're everything. But more than that, there are a lot of queers as well, but they're there for all of our stuff. And I don't think that we reciprocate enough, there are some up and coming people, from that community that we need to pay attention to, and need to know when we have a meeting, a wheelchair should not be an issue. I understand that Zoom has reduced that need temporarily, but the main narrative of being accessible but more than that, being recognized. So
that is so true. And even folks that are low income or may not have access to the internet, to cell phones, to computers, has been, I think COVID has really impacted that community intensely. So I'm excited to have read that June 15th we are officially reopening. I saw that as I was logging on to this interview. No more tears.
No more tears. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you would like to talk about before we wrap up this lovely afternoon interview?
No, I just, I like to fight, as I think you could tell. And I want that for our community. I don't want to make nice. I don't want to be moderate. I want people to kiss my gay ass. And so, not that you would be, but don't be bamboozled. That there may be a carrot, but if it's too narrow, and if we don't connect the fucking dots, we ain't gonna go anywhere. And have a good time.
Yes.
We used to say back in the day, get laid, but be safe. I'll see you on the picket line.
I love that.
Don't forget. It's
words
important.
to live by. Words to live by.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, sure. Keep up your good work. And
thank you.
Obviously, there's a place in my heart for all this, and it's very meaningful. And again, the passing of the torch is probably the most gratifying thing that can happen. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
All
well,
right.
Thanks everyone for joining us today, and look for another episode of Inside Pride next month. Thank you.
Bye-bye.